So Warframe is going through some of its biggest changes in its near 10-year development cycle. Now I will talk in depth about Soulframe, Digital Extreme's new IP, in a few minutes and what type of game it is or what it's going to turn out like. But probably the most bittersweet moment out of yesterday's TennoCon reveals was when Steve announced at the end of the Tenno livestream that he was no longer going to be the leading creative director of Warframe, that he was going to stand down, no longer at the helm, and how some of the old guard would be leaving with him, Jeff and Scott in particular.
And I think it's time that Warframe has a new leader, and and it's going to be you.
So they're handing over the torch to Rebecca, or the pink shorts as it were, to be the new lead creative director of Warframe. But also there is a new team of developers that have been promoted into leading roles as well, to allow the old guard to go away and work on Soulframe, which originally had a lot of players, or a lot of viewers anyway, in the TennoCon stream worried. But Rebecca has secretly apparently been leading Warframe for over 6 months without any of us knowing it. And I personally think a change was definitely needed to freshen up Warframe. There's been no denying that it has gotten a little bit stale for a lot of players, veterans especially, over the last few years, and that its popularity has been waning. It hasn't been in any of Steam's top 10 for the last few years. But this change could be the spark that the game needed. A new team pushing to succeed, Rebecca, Pablo, who has been promoted to Scott's role, or whoever else has been promoted as well, while also allowing Steve, Jeff and Scott and others to follow a new passion and try to make it successful. Now I think Megan is now in charge of the community, which is basically what Rebecca's old role used to be, and Pablo alone has been absolutely amazing in Warframe with some of his changes and his additions and his reworks. But only time will tell right now, but I think it was a change that was definitely needed. So Rebecca is now the creative director of a game that myself and a lot of you have enjoyed for a few years, or nearly 10 years for me particularly, and I really can't wait to see what direction she takes it in. Which brings us to Digital Extreme's new project with Steve, Jeff and Scott and a few others at the helm, Soulframe, which they spoke about on a Washington Post article in a little bit more detail. It is not a sequel or a prequel to Warframe. They've described it as more of a sister game to Warframe. Steve has said that it shares Warframe's focus on co-op, PvE combat and procedurally generated environments, but it will be the mirror universe to Warframe. Whereas Warframe is crazy fast-paced and focused on guns and shooting, Soulframe will be slow and heavy and more focused on melee combat and exploration, which definitely has me excited. Now, Soulframe's world is described as nature fighting back against industry, how it will express its anger at players who occupy the world. They've compared it to The Neverending Story or to Princess Mononoke, so it has a very heavy theme on nature, restoration and adventure, but also how the ground could shift throughout the day and procedurally generate cave networks and crevices underneath the world and so on. So it has similarities to Warframe in the random generated area or the aspect, but also on the exploration side of things isn't really something that Warframe does well. Now I like the idea that they described as when you log out of the game in Soulframe and then you decide to log back in later on that day, the world has moved on without you and maybe changed a little bit and things are just a little bit different. So I definitely like that aspect of it. Whether it's going to be a Souls-like game like From Software, I kind of doubt it will be that hard, but it is going to be heavily focused on melee combat and not really on guns, so I'm excited to see what that turns out like. Now the thing is, Soulframe is really early in development apparently, like right at the very beginning, and the only reason they announced it was because they needed to let the Warframe community know that there was a new team taking over the Warframe direction and the old guard were moving on to a new game, and it didn't really want to come across disingenuous to the community, which has played such a huge part in Warframe's success. However, they have said that they expect a playable version of Soulframe to be available within a year, all going well, as they go full steam ahead into its development now that they have a new team taken over for Warframe and everything's kind of prepared for Steve and his crew to get going on Soulframe. But let me know what you think of these changes in the comment section below. I'm not a doom and gloom guy, never have been. Like I said, I think this is exactly what Warframe needed, and Rebecca, Pablo and company definitely have the passion for driving Warframe in their own particular direction, so I'm excited to see what they do with it. But yeah, let me know what you think. Have a great day, and as always, thanks for watching.
you.